we were talking a few moments ago about AI, and what brought this to my attention was two stories. One, a New York Times story about the use of digital technology in class, particularly cell phones, and what impact that's having on education. We may get to that. The second item, though, was a student who was challenged for her theme paper, her term paper, and the accusation was that she was using AI to write it. And she won her case with the school, and they had to apologize. So I don't know how you were able to find out whether or not it was AI or not. How do you, Kathleen, is there a way to do that? I'm going to get you a little closer.
Well, there are lots of tools out there that present themselves as AI detection tools, but even since 2023, when ChatGPT was still very new and OpenAI was still very fresh to everyone, it was still quite difficult. We actually had a number of people get accused of plagiarism in my graduate program, which was international, so a lot of people, English wasn't their first language.
Right.
And so I think in that context, there was a lot of maybe expectation that people would use that to write essays and papers when that's not in their first language. So I think people got flagged for AI use when it very much wasn't present. But to answer your question, in the early days of ChatGPT, there were things such as, like buzzwords, very creative adjectives were typically indicative of AI use because, if you look at someone's vocabulary, it's not going to have that kind of range normally. And the other thing was how it constructed sentences. So a really common way that it'll write things is saying, it's not this, it's this. Or M dashes, which drove me nuts because I love M dashes and have loved them for years. So people frequently would accuse me of using AI when they only know about M dashes because of AI.
Okay. All right, the other aspect of that, and you're talking about AI. Grammarly is a form of AI.
Yeah.
But
in the early days, it actually wasn't. It was more so just like scanning things. It was algorithmic, not generative.
Okay. Not generative, but it is an editor.
Yes.
And it's a worthwhile editor. I mean, it catches typos. It catches the failure to put a comma. Sometimes I think it over commas, but that's another story. I'm one of these people who is not heavily using. I don't use commas as heavily as others, but that's okay. The point is, you still have that benefit. Well, that's no different than saying, "Hey Trey, read this for me and catch any of my errors."
Yeah.
Okay. So you're proofing it for me. I've asked Kathleen to proof stuff for me, and then I resent it when she does. But that's another story. The point of the matter is that we've used AI, and this is the other side of that same coin that we were going to talk about. And Kathleen, this is important for your participation as well. You said months ago when we talked about AI that you were less concerned about losing your job from the use of AI, but rather the ability not to use AI. In other words, and this was said to me just recently by a member of the family whose comment was, I need to have a better sense of how to use AI than my competition for the same job. And that will assure me of being employed. So, and this comes under the category of the term agency.
Yeah.
And I read this story recently. I've mentioned it to you before, that one educator commented, what's needed is teaching students to have agency over AI. Basically, don't be afraid of it and be responsible about how to use it. Before I move to Kathleen, your thoughts on that? That's because you say basically utilizing AI in school, is that the purpose for it?
Yeah, I mean, because that is utilizing AI as a tool rather than AI simply using you, I guess.
Right.
That is, I think, how AI is meant to be implemented in whether it be school or professional workspace. Like, if I say, ChatGPT, write me this essay, I give it, what I need it to say, yada yada, and it comes out, and I copy and paste that and submit it as an assignment. That is the wrong way to use it. But if I write an essay, I say, okay, strengthen me here, here, and here. What points am I missing? What could I add? That's using AI as a tool.
You'd be surprised, though, the number of officials, public officials, you're pointing at me, Kathleen, who have acknowledged that they use AI to send and respond to letters and text messages. Kathleen, you were agreeing with me when you. So,
I was. I've seen in my experience now working for you actually several public officials that have sent me statements on issues that very clearly seemed like they were written by ChatGPT, which troubles me for the reason of taxpayer dollars are paying, at least in some capacity, for these elected officials to serve in these roles. I think at a bare minimum, they have a responsibility to form cohesive responses to issues and to constituents.
Okay, let's turn the tables on that and say that what they have done with AI, they've used that AI as their secretary. And back in the day, it was not unusual for an employer, an executive, to turn to the secretary and say, and we've seen this also in other capacities, draft me a letter to say that this, and this, and send it over for my signature or approval. And I've seen this also, even in the military environment. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, I've even seen it in law, where some instances judges have challenged the attorneys. Okay, draft me your argument. I'm going to review it, and the judge or the senior executive, whomever that may be, may accept that full document as written without any editing. Now, the final analysis is they put their name on it, so they are responsible. They didn't author it, but they are responsible. So it's a kind of a gray area. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the same could be said too of insurance companies and, when they have to mass produce responses to people, whether it's things like appeals or simple notices, right? Like, obviously, the human interaction with that document doesn't define how much work is being done behind the scenes by the entity per se, but what it does say is how much is that consumer, that constituent worth?
I'm responding to a story that appeared recently in, I think it may have been one of the major publications, Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, whatever, that noted a student was challenged for having utilized AI to write her term paper. She contested it. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, I think it was the state of Kentucky. Contested it for almost a year and successfully argued her case, interestingly enough. All right. So we were talking about this a few minutes ago, and Kathleen and I were, and Trey were talking about the fact that to a large degree, AI is supplanting some of the activities and critical thinking that I've been concerned with. But Trey, on the other hand, has said from the outset, look, number one, it is what it is. It's here. Mm-hmm. And Kathleen said a few moments ago, you're not putting it back in the box, right? Number two, since it is what it is, it's here, we need to know how to use it.
Yeah.
And that's been your theory all along. Mm-hmm. Teach us how to use it. Now, I go into you, Trey, and again, I go back to my comment a few moments ago off air. You, as a junior and senior, you're the ones who are beginning to say, okay, what's my next iteration? What's my future? What's ahead for me? And that is where I'm wondering what role teachers, the human element, plays in this, insofar as guiding, teaching, and expanding your area of knowledge. What's
Yeah.
your thought on that?
Well, it's complicated because my view on it now is that how many jobs, including teachers, are not going to be taken by AI, but become buffers to AI.
Okay.
So if there's a teacher in a workplace who, going to school every morning and sitting down at her desk and
Right.
supervising the students is just opening her computer and doing all of her work and having all of her work done by AI instead of actually putting some thought into it, do we consider that a job taken by AI or buffered by AI? Because she's still there and she's still going in, but all of the legwork is being done by AI. So,
So the rote work is being done by
Yeah,
AI.
yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, we talked about this earlier. The benefit of the human being in the front of the classroom
will never go away.
is they have soul. Mm-hmm. They have empathy. They have an understanding. They comprehend your challenge is my challenge. Why I can't type as fast as you. Whatever.
Yeah.
Point of the matter is there's a buffer, if you will. But I want to go a step beyond that because I'm thinking that now, and Kathleen, I want to get your observations on this too. I'm thinking now that AI is such a significant development. It's, we've heard the term, I use it a lot now, a paradigm shift. It's altering every aspect of our lives. That seems like a pretty extreme statement, but really is. So my question is, from a customer's perspective, from Trey's perspective, what should he start thinking about? Oh, I need from teacher X here a better understanding of how technology is going to work in the field. What your interest? You're into travel and experiential activities, Trey. So let's just, for the fun of it, pick a career.
Let's go with pilot.
Pilot. Okay. So here you've got to start thinking. Okay. What's happening in the world of flying? What's happening in the world of plane manufacturing? What's happening in the world? And I need somebody who can interpret those changes from their networking, their communications and experience in their professional field, and impart that to me so that I know how to better prepare to work in that particular field. How close or far off am I on that, Kathleen? In the sense that what am I looking for from the teacher? I'm saying the teacher has to have a better handle on the technology themselves as well, do they not?
Are you asking in terms of them using ChatGPT to teach?
No, teaching it. Teaching Trey, teaching me.
Well, I think that's a pretty big question in terms of
That is a big question.
Because it's you can derive so much from a student-teacher relationship, whether that's networking opportunities, whether that's a random sentence that they say that sparks something in your brain I've had so many interactions with professors that were like that. One sentence changes everything, or maybe they had prior experiences that aligns with what I want to go in. I had a professor who, right before I moved to the Netherlands, had been a CIA agent that worked in the Dutch or the U.S. embassy to the Netherlands. So, he was able to talk me through the visa process and all of these kinds of things. You never know what you'll find in someone, especially a teacher. And so I think ChatGPT can be fine for checking off boxes, but it completely erases the opportunity for unexpected things to occur, which I think is where most of the magic happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and to the point of the teachers, AI is built off of algorithms, and it's built off of pattern recognition and things of that nature. And I think a school is very, or a student is in a very volatile environment per se, in which if we get rid of the need for a teacher, is AI going to understand why the kid is falling behind because his parents just got divorced,
There's no question there.
or
Yeah.
or he whatever it may be, or he's struggling, or needs a little more attention, or you get what I'm saying
Right,
here.
yeah.
But like, humans are biologically designed to understand and communicate with other humans. AI is programmed to do that, but there's flaw within programming.
Okay. Okay. I'm thinking.
And it's also programmed to say what appears as an appropriate response,
Yeah.
Okay.
right? It can't gauge that with a human brain.
Okay, this goes back, but I'm looking at it from purely the technical side because so much of our work now has become technical, and as a result, what I'm wondering is how. Going back to the comment that the benefit of AI or the need to teach AI is to give agency. Now, teach Trey, teach Lockwood, Kathleen how to use AI. But the problem is it's transitioning so fast that, and it's now being incorporated in so many different areas. I wouldn't say venues, but areas and activities that what I fear is the teacher is going to have to go back to school just to learn how to teach AI. And by the time the teacher gets back into the classroom to teach AI
will be different.
Practically information is obsolete.
I don't know. I don't think it could ever replace. I think where it can be beneficial, I guess, I don't necessarily use AI in any capacity, but it could be beneficial by way of pointing you in the direction of resources. But Google achieves that same purpose, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of redundant.
Yep.
And additionally, like you said, editing, fact-checking, these sort of, and fact-checking, I would never trust it with that, frankly.
Oh, she's shaking her head. Big time, really?
Yes.
I fully agree.
Yeah, I think that is, you have to be able to, because it pulls minuscule points from research papers or Yahoo Answers things, some things that aren't even vetted resources.
Wikipedia,
Right? Precisely. I will say Wikipedia is a bit more rigorous these days.
I love Wikipedia.
It's
I edit Wikipedia
that's a
articles.
great, yeah, they're
Like,
cutthroat actually, Wikipedia articles and
Okay.
editors. Yeah. People haunt those pages.
well, Wikipedia gets a bad rap.
It does.
Especially, teachers will always tell you don't use Wikipedia, but as someone who edits Wikipedia articles, they get on you.
They do. The moderators are
Like,
crazy.
they are crazy. Yeah, a lot of what I edit and what I look at is stuff within, maritime history, stuff like that. And I was doing this bit on, I forget what it was. Have you ever have you ever heard of the Andrea Doria? Mm-hmm. So the MS Stockholm, the ship that collided with it in the South Atlantic, used to run regular cruises out of Moorhead City. So I was really interested in that for a while. It's unrelated to the point, but I was editing that article, and one of the editors got banned or something like that, or heavily suspended from Wikipedia because they had written that the ships collided at 9:24 in the morning. That probably isn't what it is, but it was something like that. Right. When in reality they collided at 9:26, and he got banned. They will get on you.
Oh, really?
And another point to make about AI is these AI corporations have shareholders who might want to control the flow of information and the flow of free information. And so if they support a certain side of history or a view that might not necessarily be profitable, is AI going to come with you and say, oh, that is factual information?
Here's my problem with that, Trey, and I'm looking to you, and it's true even among the adults. And the real difficulty is the vast majority of the adults that have glommed onto AI are a little less. They're more resistant. Actually, they're more resistant about changing. My question is, to you and to teenagers, is there a cynicism and is there a willingness to challenge the outcome of some of the artificial intelligence conclusions?
Absolutely. I mean, AI right now is so controversial just because,
In what regard?
well, I think I mentioned this off air as well, but the data centers,
Yeah.
during the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, when he laid out infrastructure plans, data centers were at the top of the list, said they're going to be a hot item, they're going to go in everywhere.
Right.
And everywhere these data centers are going in, whether it be one was just put up in a suburb of Atlanta, next to a farm that had hosted this family for over 100 years.
Right.
And it's dropping the water table down so far, and this family doesn't have water.
The environmental impact.
The environmental impacts. And I look at this, I consider myself a staunch environmentalist. Why are we putting so much water into this? It's actually insane. I think AI just last year used the same amount of water as all of New York City. And we're drawing this out of, I think Eatonville, Florida just got one. They're a predominantly black, like low-income black neighborhood outside of Orlando, Florida, who now many of the homes don't have access to water because of a data center that got put in so that we can generate cartoon versions of ourselves to post on
North Carolina is
Facebook.
looking at data centers, and they're putting but they're wanting to put a moratorium on that.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw that they were looking at putting one on Fort Bragg.
No,
Yeah.
Okay, that's new.
I haven't
did
seen
not
that,
heard-
but I
That was
wouldn't.
fairly recent.
Yeah.
So I understand the physical aspects of this. When I say physical, I mean literally the environmental concerns. But I'm looking at it from the intellectual
Yeah.
question. In your conversations with students at class, do they reference AI? Do they reference any of the information that they get in that regard, and rely on it and or trust it fully? And if challenged and proven that that the information has hallucinated, is the term, are they willing to say, hey, that's just another chink in the armor of AI?
Yes, unfortunately, AI is an incredible tool, and it makes everything that it's implemented in so easy. And, Kathleen made a great point. The cat's out of the bag. You can't put AI back in the ground. You can't get rid of, the growth and the economic benefits and whatever it may be are real. And so how do we mitigate the impact of AI as a tool rather than something that'll take us all down? I don't know.
The question, I go back all the way to the beginning of when we were talking about this in relationship to education, because I think that the students are the ones who should be asking that question of the teachers. In other words, what should I expect as a student? What should I expect as a graduate? How are you going to prepare me? Because that is the real issue for education.
Yeah.
And so, and we've seen this. As a matter of fact, of course, we're seeing it on a daily basis. How badly the public is able to discern fact from fiction. So it's as we wrap it up, Trey.
Yeah, and so many young people don't know how to use AI properly. And so many teachers, especially the past couple generations who are still teaching, can't change the ringtone on their iPhone. So now they're expected.
That's exactly right.
So now they're expected to teach this concept
Right.
that isn't even understood by
Very
the
good.
people who are in the generation who can understand it.